Hello, everybody, and welcome to this episode of Mastering Midlife, How to Thrive When the World Asks the Most of You. I am your host, Mark Silverman. Thank you for coming along for the ride. Today, I have the privilege of introducing you to my new friend and a colleague, Mike Rosenfeld, who is a peak performance coach. He's a breathwork therapist. He works with high-performing athletes. He works with artists. He works with business people. It was a mutual business acquaintance that introduced us. And he's also a social entrepreneur. He founded Youth Expressions, which is dedicated to inspiring at-risk youth. And he's an all-around really amazing guy, one of the few people I've connected to on a soul and spiritual level from the get-go. And I'm really pleased to introduce you to him. Mike, thanks for being on the show.
Mark, it's an honor, it's a pleasure, and I look forward to our talk.
So we decided that the reason you're on the show is because of this connection, and I needed to share you with the world. There is probably 12 subjects we can go into, but what I'd love for you to do is share your origin story, because this podcast is about transformation. It's about transition. It's about evolving, and in life, one thing works until it doesn't, or things weren't working, and then you kind of find the gears and you're starting to touch them, which is part of my story also. So tell me your origin story and how you got to this place right here.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I believe that every system, every way of being is perfect for the results that it produces. So like whatever results we're getting in our life, there's a system or a way of being that's getting those results. And that system itself is not flawed. But if we don't like the results that we're getting, it's important for us to then look at the system and say, how do I modify it? How do I change it? But the system is perfect. That's why it's getting those exact results.
What you're saying is acceptance of where you are in life, what you're doing, what's happening before, and then decide if you want to be that way instead of judging it. It's bad, it's terrible, it's this, it's that. This is a system that's been working to this point for whatever reason. Now let's shift.
For sure. I am where I am because of the system I've been using. And I'm okay with that. I chose that system. And whether that system is my thoughts, my actions, my rituals, the way I communicate, the way I listen to people, the way I listen to myself, whether I trust my truth or whether I divorce myself from it, wherever I am is a result of the way I have been. So I'm calling that a system. So that system is perfect for the results that I have now. And that mindset has been very helpful for me because, I've lived on my own since I was 14 years old. And at a very early age, I got initiated into a gang and was put into programs for juvenile offenders. And while in programs, I had done certain things that made me very fearful for my life. And part of my growth was to understand that even at an early age, I'm responsible for where I am. I'm not going to blame my parents. I'm not going to blame my friends or my society or anything like that, or my school for the choices I made to get here. So the system that I was using got me in that program for juvenile offenders. But as I was afraid for my life, I knew that I had to make some changes in my system. So I went through several years of crying myself to sleep.
So hold on. You're using very adult and advanced language for a young man. What were the what were the thoughts you were having then? You weren't using the word "I've got to change the system." What were you saying to yourself?
Yeah. So I thought at a very early age, I thought I was sick. I had done something where I thought that I contracted HIV. And basically what I was saying to myself, if I continue on this way, I'm dead. It's just not going to work. In fact, I may be on that path anyway because of those choices. So I've got to change the way I'm living. I got to change the choices I'm making. No, I definitely didn't refer to it as a system, but I knew that my actions led me to where I was at a very early age. So I learned to take responsibility for them. And that was very powerful for me. I was no longer blaming myself for what happened. I was actually looking at myself. Or others. I was looking at myself and saying, wow, you created this. That's pretty freaking powerful of you. What do you want to create next? So, the story goes on to, after several years of crying myself to sleep and thinking I was sick, I finally went and got tested. I found out I was okay. And I ended up rebelling after that. I'd given up so much of my
Oh, the
life.
death sentence over. So now it's time to
Party.
party.
Totally. It's time to party. Like you've just sacrificed the last X amount of years of your life thinking you were sick and being on your best behavior as a way of proving to the world or God or a higher power, or I don't know what I referred to it back then as, that I deserve to be alive. And now that I'm alive, it's like, okay, well, I got what I needed. It's time to go party. So at a very early age, I went to work for an ad agency, and it was a large ad agency, and our client was Seagram. And I moved up. I met the owner and the vice president of Seagram's at a very early age. And at that time, Seagram's, the gin and alcohol and spirit company, was also the parent company to Universal Entertainment. So I moved up the corporate ladder very quickly because of the people who I had met and because I was performing well. And I switched over from being in the spirits world over to the music industry. And while I was working in the music industry, here I am, having lost close friends who were killed, having gone through many years, 6 years, 6 to 8 years of like worrying about my health. And I'm sitting here marketing music that had a negative message to a target audience of children. And I felt like a hypocrite. Like I wasn't kept on earth. I wasn't kept alive so I can be poisoning the minds of kids. So I knew I needed to make a change. And at that point, I ended up leaving that world and going into becoming I thought that my path was to become a rabbi. And after a year of, living in Crown Heights,
Which is ground zero for rabbi birthing.
yeah, totally. So I'm living in Crown Heights, and after a year of like learning Judaism and like the beauties of it and everything, I decided that although this is a very beautiful religion, it's not the only path that I can take in order to feel good about myself. So I left there in 1999 or 1998. I started a charity for kids who are incarcerated, mostly gang members that use hip hop and spoken word and different art forms as a tool of helping them connect to their authentic voice and being able to make the distinction between who they're showing up as in the world, like the egoic voice of this is who you should be versus this is who I really am. And as they were able to tap into that authentic voice, to be able to create a vision of what they look like at their very best while being true to themselves, and then developing the mindset and the systems necessary to achieve that. So I did that for 12 years, and it was very successful. I was brought onto Oprah, and it became a best practice around the country. And it was amazing, but I became burnt out. So I needed to say to myself, it's time for a change. The system or the way I've been over the last 12 years produced certain results, great ones, but that's not who I want to be now. And that's not who I want to be moving forward. I want more out of myself. I want to experience myself in a whole new experience. So I got clear of what that would look like. And the answer was I want to continue on with the coaching, but I want to be working with people who are in a position of influence, because I believe that when we are really tuned in to ourselves and like listening to our truth, not only are we performing better in our sports or in our careers, or as I work with a lot of celebrities as well in that world, not only are we happier, but our contribution to the world is much greater. So for the last 8 years, I've been doing that. I'm working with professional athletes, CEOs of Fortune 500 companies, celebrities, loving where I am.
So thank you for sharing that journey. So what the theme that I took from that is the ability to transform, the ability to be one person at one point and then make a choice to start building a new person next. Now, the core of who you are never changes. We know that. But what you're creating in the world, how you're creating yourself in the world seems to have changed. You go from gang member, right, to good boy, to party boy, to sales guy and marketing guy. Now you're in the legit world, right? And then to social advocate, right? To now you're namaste, love you guys. How can I teach you to breathe and be present and all that stuff. And each time it was just a choice to change your behaviors, what you call the system, to reinvent yourself. So it's possible, right?
Yeah. Not only do I believe it's possible, I believe that when we're not giving ourselves permission to expand, we're contracting. And contracting means we're tightening up. And when we tighten up, what happens is our back becomes tight, our thoughts become rigid, and we start complaining. And before you know it, we're looking at our lives as victims. We're here to be the healthiest, happiest, most passionate, most powerful version of ourselves. And if you look at, I was very much inspired by Joseph Campbell, The Hero's Journey. And in that, he talks about sacrifice. And he says it's the winning stroke to your success. And what he says there is throughout our lives, we have identities. And the first identity that we have is the identity of an embryo inside of our mother's womb. And it's comfortable and we're floating around and we're not having to do anything. And then there's a really traumatic experience. We become living, breathing mammals. So on one level or another, we have to let go of that comfort of being in the womb. And now we're breathing in oxygen on our own. We're taking care of ourselves as babies. And then for the first 2 years, mommy, daddy, whomever, are 100% taking care of us. They're giving us our food. They're holding us. They're giving us warmth. But at 2 years old, there's a sacrifice that comes along where I have to let go of that. And I'm just using this number arbitrarily, but people call it the terrible twos for a reason, because that's when a child becomes a little bit more independent and they start saying no and they start moving around. They've sacrificed the comfort of being given everything, and now they're becoming a little bit more independent. And then through our lives, we're in these identities where we are, now I'm two, I'm fending for myself. And then I become a teenager and my identity is a little bit different. And then I become a young adult and now I'm an adult. And we have these opportunities to let go of the past chapter, but take the lessons that came from it and move into that next chapter in a very powerful, healthy, strong way. And when we don't make that sacrifice, when we stay stuck in a pattern, we're never going to be happy, because we're here to grow. We're here to evolve. We're here to become stronger. And we don't get that way by remaining who we were. We get that way by discovering who we are and allowing ourselves to go through that process.
Let me play devil's advocate to that.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting in the car and I've got bills piling up and I am stressed. My boss treats me like crap, but I can't quit my job because I have bills. I have elderly parents that I help take care of. I feel trapped, right? So that whole contracting to the victim part, I don't even know what you're talking about because it's just my life. It's the water I swim in, right?
Yeah.
And when you say we were born to be healthy and free and, and alive and expressive and all this stuff, I'm like, you know what? I just want to get through the goddamn day, right?
Yeah.
How do you reach me to help me see that I do have choices, that I did create, I had a hand in creating where I am, which means I have the power and the ability to create something different. How do you help reach in and save me from the movie I'm watching and living in?
Well, first of all, I believe that everyone is naturally creative, resourceful, and whole. So I wouldn't approach you like I'm saving you. I'm not that. What I would ask you is, like, if you can rate your experience on a scale of 1 through 5, how happy are you? How much passion are you living with? How much purpose do you feel? And rate that on a scale of 1 through 5, the quality of your life. You might say 5 being like, I'm
Right.
fully.
Dude, I'm a 2. I'm a 1. I love my kids. I did love my wife or my husband, but I'm just trying to survive here. I look really good on Facebook, right? I do drive a nice car. I really kind of enjoy my BMW, but that's about it.
Yeah.
That's my answer.
Beautiful. And I would ask you, if you were at a 5, what would be different? This is where it becomes a little bit scary, but also like the idea of liberation and the idea of exploration starts to kick in. So now, like, okay, I've been in a paradigm. I'm only seeing things a certain way. I'm at a 2. And before I get to the 5, whatever our belief system is, is what we see. So there are 82 billion bits of information that are happening around us every given moment. And the human is only able to take in a very small percent, less than 2%. So if there's 82 billion bits of information that are happening, and I'm only able to take in a very small percentage of what's actually happening, am I choosing what I'm seeing? Of course not. What I'm seeing is based on the belief system that I have about myself and the world. And I'm receiving that all the time by the way I'm interpreting things. So my subconscious, which is really our activator, it's our operating system, pulls in information, and then our conscious mind supports that information. So if I believe that this is all it's ever going to be and I'll never be able to get out of it, that's my belief. It is what it is. If I believe that, then my conscious mind is going to look for things to prove that. Right? See, this person is also having that type of experience, or the system is set up this way, and nobody over the age of 40 is really able to change their lives, right? I have that belief, right? And now I'm only seeing things that support that belief. So then the question is, if you were at a 5, what would your life look like? I understand what it's like at a 2. What would it look like if you were at a 5?
Right. I'd have more money in the bank. I'd be thinner. My boss would be a different person. I'd be at a different job. Any number of external things that I would probably name.
So then what you just said to me, so you're asking me what I would do like in this process. So what you just shared with me is beautiful. It's the what of what you want, right? So let's say we have the what, we have the why, and then we have the how. The what is the goals. I'd be in this position, I'd have much more money, so forth and so on. So now I know what your life would look like if you were at a 5, which is important. That's the bullseye that we're going to aim for. But now I need to know why. Like, if you had more money, if you were in a different position, what would that do for your life? What would that mean?
Right. It would give me freedom and less stress, which is probably the answer I hear 98% of the time. Freedom and less stress.
Wow. And what about freedom and less stress is important to you?
I don't have it and I want it.
For what purpose?
So I can enjoy life.
Right. So you really want to be able to enjoy life, right? Got it. So you want more freedom, less stress. Now, imagine you're in that space. Like, what does that feel like? Can you go there for just a moment?
Yeah, I can imagine that.
Beautiful. That's really important. And if you couldn't imagine that, we do some work around that. Okay. But really what it's about now is, okay, so you know what a 5 would look like. You know why it's important. I believe certainty is the name of the game. And I want to be able to help people get certainty. And the way we do that is we make sure that the bullseye that we're looking to achieve is not coming from a place of should. I should do this, I should do that, right? It's not coming from a place of fear or judgment or should. It's actually coming from a place of love. Like, I really love this. Like, wow, like that living this way is insanely expansive, right? This is amazing for me. So now we know it's coming from a very pure place. We know why it's amazing. And now it's about creating certainty. So if I were to say to someone, I grew up in Philadelphia, and I need you to find my house that I grew up in the next 10 hours. You might not have any certainty. But if I said, okay, it's 102 Kings Drive, now you have more certainty. If I said, this is how you get there from where you are, now you have even more certainty. So the same thing. I know what you want. I know why you want it. Now we put the strategy in place so you can see step by step how we're going to get from where you are to where you want to go. Now the next part is, okay, you still have some belief systems. You have your fears, you have your doubts, you have your judgments, all of that. And we have to work on mindset. And when we work on mindset, we're working on the way you see things, but also the way you feel. If you have anxiety, if you're having like all these nervous feelings, that is going to affect your confidence in your thoughts, which means you're not going to be able to get past step 1 because you're going to keep self-sabotaging. And you're constantly going to be triggered to stay in that space where you are, because that space where you are, as uncomfortable as it is really comfortable, because in order for you to get to that other space, you're going to be discovering things about yourself. These are untreaded waters. That's scary. So we got to know what you want, why you want it, how you're going to get there, and we have to work on your mindset throughout the process to make sure that you keep going forward in a way that you enjoy the process, that you're mitigating your risk so you don't feel like, if this messes up, I'm losing everything, and that you're able to fully concentrate on the step-by-step.
Wow. So what I heard there was the first thing I need to do is really get that my eyes and my mind are not a receptor; they're a projector, right? So I am making up most of what I see out there through my beliefs, my thoughts, my habits, and what I've done all my life. So first, to start to see that that's wrong. Second, what I hear is now take responsibility that I had a hand in creating where I am today. Then after that, what is it that I want? Is there something that I want that's different that I have today? And can I get really excited about it and really specific about it? And then what tools, what mindsets, and what shifts do I need to make to get to where I want to go?
Wow. Yeah. That's exactly what I just said. You just said it much better. Very well. Yes. But
No,
that is
that's the formula that I heard you say, and I think that's a pretty good formula for any awakening, any shift for a human being to make, is to realize that we actually have the power in our own lives. To confront our own victimhood, as you used the word, is a very scary thing. Nobody wants to be seen as a victim, yet we walk around that way all the time.
I tend to go into every session when I'm just beginning with someone, whether it's a team, whether it's a person, or whether it's a company, and I ask them the following question. I say, for Michael Jordan, I like to use him as an example. For Michael Jordan to have been the best in the world of basketball, what's the number one thing that he needed? And I'll hear things like, he needed mental strength because they know that's what I do, or he needs confidence, or he needs talent or physical prowess. And I would say, yes, mental strength, physical prowess, talent, all of that is important. Discipline, these are all really important things. But they're not the answer. Because he can have all the talent, all the skill, all the mental strength, all of that, but if he doesn't know the rules to basketball, there's no way for him to succeed. He'll run the ball in the opposite direction. He'll kick the ball. So there's some fundamentals that have to come in before all that other stuff. And just like there's fundamentals to basketball, I believe that there's fundamentals to creating change in our life, to creating success, to assuring our power. And the first fundamental, I would call it, or rule number one, is it's imperative to have a growth mindset. You can have a fixed mindset in which you believe things are the way they are, and that's just the way they're going to be. You have a certain level of skills that you were born with, and that's just who you are. But if you believe that way, you're not giving yourself a chance. You can have a growth mindset that says, you know what? In every situation, I have an opportunity to grow and learn and become better. So if you take two people who are on an even playing field, one has a fixed mindset, one has a growth mindset, over a period of time, one's going to be advancing at a much greater rate than the other, if the other is advancing at all. So rule number one is to have a growth mindset. Rule number two is, it's kind of like a fun, quirky thing, but I really do see it this way. If you break everything down, everything breaks down into atoms and molecules and subatomic particles, right? I'm made of skin, which breaks down into atoms and molecules and subatomic particles. So are you, so is my computer. Ultimately, everything is made of energy. And I like to use this framework that everything is made of energy. That says everything is connected. And if everything is connected, that means I am connected to my worst failure, period. But I'm also connected to my greatest success. And rule number two basically just simply says that the possibilities can go any way. Rule number three is the rule of creator. People can call themselves a victim and be right, but they're right at their own expense. When you say that you are the creator of your circumstances, what you say is, this hand of cards that I'm holding, no matter if I hate them or not, are perfect to get me to where I want to go next. And you use them. You don't blame anyone. You don't blame situations, circumstances, people. You don't, because when you do that, you give away your power. Even if you're right, you're being right at your own expense. So you claim ownership. And the way you claim ownership is you say, I'm in this situation because there's something I can learn and grow from it. And that mindset allows you to then master the situation instead of being controlled by it. The next one is people refer to as the law of attraction. And basically that says whatever vibration I'm in, I don't use that term with my clients because my clients are athletes and CEOs, so they don't want to hear that. But basically what I say, whatever state of mind you're in, that's what you're producing. So you can be in a very doubtful and judgmental state, and the reality you're creating for yourself is coming from that space. So the results you're getting are a result of being that way. So the name of the game is to get to that space of love and certainty. That's a very high vibration. It's a very powerful state. And if you're in that state, no matter what goes on in your life, how negative you can perceive it, you can look at it with certainty that there's a lesson that's going to help you grow. So you're not resisting anything. You're taking in everything and you're using it as an opportunity to consistently progress. So that's that one. The next one is the law of polarity, and I'll finish up with them. The law of polarity basically says that winning and losing are on the same continuum. One couldn't happen without the other. There is no win without the loss. There is no good without bad. There's no high without low. It's all relative. It's all on the same paradigm, right? So if I want to win, winning is my subject, right? That's what I want. And whatever vibration or whatever mindset I am in is going to give me the best chance to win, or I'm going to create my own loss because I'm connected to both. So if I want to win so badly that the counter thought is I don't want to lose, whatever thought is more dominant, the wanting to win or the fear of losing is the one that's going to prevail. So you'll see in sports, for example, sports are a really good metaphor for this. You can have somebody at the free throw line ready to take a shot, but if they're afraid of losing, what's going to happen is their sympathetic nervous system is going to kick in, they're going to go into fight or flight, their body's going to contract, and they're going to force things, which ultimately is going to give them the outcome more likely than not that they don't want, because that was the predominant thought. I'm afraid of losing, whether that thought is happening consciously or subconsciously. So the law of polarity says in order to win, I must be okay with the loss. Otherwise, I won't have the wherewithal, the confidence to even take the shot, or I won't be able to shoot it. So I don't focus on losing. I'm okay with losing, and I focus on everything necessary in order to win. So I put my energy into the things I can control that get me the results I want. There's a couple more, but I'll just say the last one. It's the law of right action. I don't know who
So hold on. So we're gonna coach on air, dude. You coach some of the best athletes in the world, high achieving businessmen, and you are sharing gold with my audience. Don't you dare minimize what you're sharing with my audience.
They got to buy my book. I'm just kidding. I'm 100% kidding. I will love to share this.
So keep going.
And it's very simple. There's two more that I love. One is called the rule of right action. And I don't remember who I heard this from, but he said it great. If you're living in Miami, you will never see a sunset looking east. You will only see a sunset facing west. So you can be you can have all those other rules that I shared in place, right? You can realize that growth is everything and you can focus on growing. That's the rule one. You can easily get to the space of taking ownership of everything, saying, you know what, I'm creating this. That's rule two. You can easily get yourself into the right energy, so forth and so on. You can be okay with everything. You can have all that stuff in place, but if you're not taking the right actions, none of that matters. So right action is really important. The last one, to me, which I love, is the law of now. And basically what that says is the mind lives in the past. The past is limited because it stops right here. The mind lives in the future. The future too is limited because it starts right here. So everything in the past already happened. That's why it's limited. And the mind likes to go back there. And normally when we go back, like there's a saying, if you're living in the past, you're depressed. If you're living in the future, you have anxiety. Oftentimes when we're in the past, there's guilt, there's blame, there's shame. But really what that means is whatever we've learned in the past is the focus from which we see the world now. So we're missing out a lot of what's happening here because we're basing it on what we've seen. So the now is infinite. What I mean by that is it's now, now it's now, now it's now. It's always now, unless we're in the past or in the future. So we say the only time to look back is to learn and to grow with gratitude. So I don't spend more than 7% of my time, and I do a lot of reflection, in the past. When I find myself living in the past, I smile and I say, what did I need to learn from that? And I come back to the moment. The only time I look forward is to really tune into my heart of what my ideal life looks like moving forward, to paint that vision crystal clear and to be able to build the strategy in order to get there. But all of my power is in the now. I can't control my future. If I can control my future, I just say I won the game without playing it. In the now is where I give myself the best chance to win. So in science, we're calling something flow state. Flow state is that ability to really be completely in the moment, where all the creative power is flowing to us and through us. So when an athlete, for example, is in the zone, they're performing at levels that really are hard to comprehend. Like you're seeing another level, and each and every one of us has that other level. But there's a part of our brain, the front cerebral cortex. It's the part that judges, it's the part that analyzes, it's the one that creates labels. It's the part that lives in the past, that quantifies and qualifies. And when we're in that space of being analytical all the time, we're taking away our creative power. And the example I like to give, most people have been on a dance floor. And most people, even for a second, have had a moment while dancing where they felt one with the music, where it was magic, where it was fluid, where there was harmony, and there was just beauty behind it, right? We've all been there. But we've all been on the dance floor where we were self-conscious as well. How do I look? What are they thinking? Da, 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 da. When we are not being self-conscious in the moment, we are in flow state. We are in the infinite now, where there's this power that we have that it's hard for us to explain. So that's the final one of the rules. And that's with all of these rules, through the coaching, we do coaching, but we also teach how to own all of it and maximize it. And this stuff is really cool because not only does it help with performance, it helps alleviate anxiety. I'm doing this huge webinar now on, I have an online school on overcoming anxiety. It alleviates the depression, all of this stuff, because now you have a system to hold on to that actually will work. Wow. That's why the rules are important.
Thank you. What I love about your approach and the way you talk about all of this is, you use universal laws, you use universal truths, and you couple them with rubber meets the road. How does this apply to my life here and now? Yes, I'm energy. That's great, but I'm stuck in a job I don't want. Yes, there's ultimate this and that, but I really do need to go to the next level, in my sport, in my art, or in my business. And you really marry those two beautifully. The other thing I'm going to do is in the show notes, I'm going to link to one of your breathwork videos, which I found really useful, because I teach breathwork to all my clients as soon as they come in. And I'm not a breathwork teacher, but I know what it's done for me. So I teach people to at least start to breathe. And your video on breathwork is really very, very useful. And I'd love for you to come back and talk about it again another time.
Love to.
So Mike, what's big for you next? What projects are up? Where do you want to send people?
Well, I am doing the online school right now.
And where can people find out about that?
It's playbigschool.com.
Okay, we'll put that in the show notes, playbigschool.com.
Yeah, and just we can talk about breathwork for days. But the one thing that is important, as we were saying about the rule of now, the mind lives in the past and the mind lives in the future. The breath is happening in the now. And when we can master our breathing, we can master our thinking. So when we focus on our breathing, not our thoughts, it brings our thoughts back to the moment. And that's the beginning of opening ourselves up to our creative power. Whatever our psychological or emotional state is, like when you're angry, you're going to breathe a certain way. When you're happy, you're going to breathe another way. So the breath always will mirror the thought and the emotion. But just as the breath will mirror the thought and the emotion, it actually will influence the thought and emotion. So just as a psychological or emotional state affects our breathing can completely shift our psychological and emotional state. 70%, I'm going to get into like psychobabble right here, but it's important for people to know, 70% of our metabolic waste is released through our breathing. 70% of the toxins in our body get released through the way we breathe. And if you walk around America, you see that most people are breathing short and shallow, or even holding their breath, which means they're holding on to the toxins. And what happens is when you hold on to those toxins, it tugs on your psyche, it tugs on your confidence, it tugs on your ability to think clearly and to really expand. And that's one of the things that keep people in that paradigm. They stay stuck. And part of getting out of whatever you're in and getting to the next level, whether you're going through a change in life and you've been in a career for so many years and you're wanting more, like if you're in that space of nervousness and stress, why wouldn't you be there? These are big things happening. But one of the things that can really help you through it is learning how to master your breathing. What I mean by that is start basic, slow, long, deep, full breaths. Breathwork.
Beautiful. Yeah. So those of you who stayed for that little bit of gold, that was something I wanted to shoehorn into the show, and I didn't know how I was going to do it. But the breath work for me has been miraculous, and it's something that I hate. I really dislike doing. My brain hates doing breath work because I'm one of those people who uses very little of their lungs. I've had to test it, and it really has changed my world. So we will have another podcast if Mike comes back to teach you some breath work. But I will send you that video. Mike, thank you
I'd love
for
to take your audience through an
cool.
I'd love to take you and your audience through an experience.
Great. So thank you for being on the show. I appreciate you taking the time. I'll put your webpage and every way to get in touch with you in the show notes. And to everybody else, I thank you for coming along for the ride. I love you and have a great rest of the day.
Mark, thank you so much. Thank all of you for listening. Be well.